parting words for her?
Bye.
Welcome to Y'all or Nothing, where we break down how power is built, blocked, and reshaped at a grassroots level, and why red Southern states just might be ahead of national trends. We don't just comment on politics, we live it. I'm Gail Choate.
And I'm Kristen Foster. Today, we are going to be talking about a lot of subjects. Gail disagrees with Rachel Maddow. We have an interview with Ohio Congresswoman Emilia Sykes, really on why everything is just so damn expensive right now. And she also had some parting words for Kristi Noem. Plus, we're going to be talking about our Grifts of the Week, Turning Point USA, and the Kouri Richins trial.
It's been an interesting week, hasn't it? Which leads me to the question, Kristen, what are you drinking?
Girl, this may look like water. It is not. It is a rosemary vodka tonic, and It is delicious. I made homemade rosemary syrup, on my own, because I am a sucker for an herby drink. If I was at a cocktail bar, it would be cute because they'd have, a little sprig of rosemary and a lime. I didn't have any of that. I just have a plastic cup and some vodka.
But you have a color-coordinated straw, so that's a good thing.
There it is.
So I'm drinking just straight vodka today. I've got in my Packers glass, just a little nod to my heritage, because after all, I'm Arkansan by choice. And I am drinking because it's been one hell of a week, and we already know it's just started. Cheers.
Just started. Cheers. It is definitely one hell of a week. And, normally when people tell me they are an Arkansan by choice, I say condolences.
Wow.
Condolences, my friend, for sure. So, while we have our first little drink today, Gail, let's watch a clip from Rachel Maddow, because you take issue with some of this, and I want to hear what you got to say on it.
What proportion of the American public says they consider themselves to be a supporter of the No Kings movement in this country? What do you think the number's going to be? I mean, for context, in this same poll, in this NBC poll, they also asked people if they consider themselves to be a supporter of the MAGA movement, the Make America Great Again movement, the Trump movement. The proportion of Americans who said they consider themselves to be a MAGA supporter is 30%. I should note that's fallen by 6 points in the past 6 months in this same poll, but still, that's okay. Round number, understandable number. 30% of Americans say they consider themselves to be a supporter of the MAGA movement. Compared to that, what proportion of Americans say they are a supporter of the No Kings movement? 43%. 43% of this country says they consider themselves to be a supporter of the No Kings protest movement. Which means not only does the base of support for the No Kings movement.
So I think the thing that concerns me about this is that she is just comparing apples and oranges. When you talk about the MAGA movement, it is a real movement, right? It has been sustained. It's been long lasting. It's an identity. It has collective identity as well as collective action. I mean, let's face it. There's so much collective identity that they wear it on hats and t-shirts and fly flags from the back of the truck. The No Kings protest, that's a tactic. It's not a movement. A tactic is something that's employed to get attention. Maybe it's got a little tiny call to action, but it's not a movement at all. And I'm just kind of disappointed that Rachel tried to compare these two things and use it as a way to demonstrate that there are people rising up in opposition. Well, I don't disagree with that. I do agree that people are fed up, but I would argue that No Kings, it's a tactic. It's not a movement.
So your real opposition to it is her calling it like a protest movement rather than just calling it basically a protest. Do you think that's because, as a journalist, it's like a way to identify something that doesn't have like an organizational structure? Kind of like they said the same thing, Black Lives Matter movement. Because there wasn't the ACLU, which is an organization that people think of. Do you think that's where that's coming from, or do you think it's really a misidentification of what's happening on the ground when you talk about a protest versus a movement?
I think it's a misrepresentation of what's happening on the ground. And the reason it concerns me so much, Kristen, is because what we have seen over the course of the last few years is folks who think that protesting is an end all be all, right? I mean, there are folks that are out there protesting every single week, but it's not revolving around an ideology. It's revolving simply around a grievance. It's not asking for any kind of a resolution that is consistent or that invites in allies or other people to participate. It's a single thing. It's like pouting out loud, right? And as a result of that, I get concerned when we have a national figure like Rachel putting it out there as if it is inclusive, that it invites allies, that it has a way of turning bystanders into action takers. It doesn't do any of those things. And I'm sorry, I can't help but get all wonky. I mean, it's my field of study, right? So it just irritates me.
Yeah, no, and I get it from like an organizing perspective. I think about it like preventing burnout in some ways. Like I feel like protests are great. They serve a purpose, but often that purpose is like an on-ramp into the movement, right? Into deeper work. That's what it should be. It's not always, but it's this moment where people like feel very emotionally activated about something. And they go out because this is a really easy thing. You just have to show up. You don't have to know how to do anything. You just have to show up. And there's nothing wrong with that. Protests do. I just went to Selma, Alabama this last weekend, where in the civil rights movement, people marched over the bridge and were attacked and beaten and killed. Like there are real value to making a stand, right? But I think the problem I see with it often is that we ask people to do these like protest after protest after protest, like making a lot of noise. They're investing loudly, right, in what they care about, but they're not building any kind of deeper infrastructure. And I think that's, for me, the concern. I don't see enough protest organizers using it as an on-ramp to deeper activation.
Well, right, because movements require strategy. And protest can be one tactic within a strategy, but you're not going to get from point A to point B with just a protest, right? You have to have a protest that has a strong call to action, that demonstrates volume, right? In terms of people who are involved or against or for whatever it happens to be, right? It demonstrates political power so that legislators will look at it and go, wow, this means something. But when you just protest, when that's it, and it's not tied into a bigger strategy, it's like pissing in the wind, it just, sorry, but it doesn't really get you anyplace. And so what I worry about all the time, it's like when it comes to just protesting or it'd be like if you wanted to run a political campaign, just writing postcards. It's not enough, right? And it gets people to feel, it gives them a false sense that they're doing something when their something won't end up creating the results that they want. So I think we have a responsibility to let people know that protesting is a great release valve. It's a great way to call media attention. It's a great way to, again, it's a tactic to highlight a strategy, but it's not the end all be all. And I think that we need to have a really solid understanding of that. It's like Black Lives Matter. Yes, there was protest after George Floyd was murdered, and that triggered, right, something, the protest. But it triggered was allyship. It triggered a place where a lot of people came together and said, oh, you know what? Our cause is a little bit different, but we can come together around this common thing. That makes sense. Calling No Kings a movement, that doesn't make sense.
Well, folks heard it here first. Political science professor, doctorate, expert in the field. Protests are pissing in the wind.
You got it. And I'll drink to that.
Well, Gail, like I mentioned, I went to Selma, Alabama to commemorate the bridge crossing jubilee. It was the 61st year, and it was a really heartfelt event. Reverend Jesse Jackson had been at that event every year, and his funeral was this weekend. So there was a lot of discussion of like legacy and of what courage it took in that time. But I'll tell you, one of the surprise things that I discovered along the way was that gas prices went fucking crazy. My trip was a lot more expensive than I expected when I filled up my tank earlier in the week to just take care of my normal errands. And then when I filled it up to go to Selma and then filled it up to come back, Lord have mercy. What in the world?
The prices are out of control. I know I watched the gas prices around here rise to like 40 cents in a couple of days. And it course, it was at the same time my little discount that I get each week went from 20 cents to 10 cents too. So I got double hit. But yeah, it's out of control. Out of control.
And we're just seeing it go up and down and fluctuate because the president basically creates policy through social media, and markets have to take their cues from that now. I mean, it's just absolutely wild. But one of the things I had the honor of doing before I left was sitting down with Congresswoman Emilia Sykes from Ohio to talk about why everything is so damn expensive and get her insight as a co-chair of the Democrat Affordability Caucus. She's worked really hard on housing affordability. So we had a great interview, and I'm excited to share that with y'all.
Good. Are we going to watch a little bit?
All right. So thank you so much for joining me this morning, Congresswoman Sykes. I'm so pleased to get to speak with you today.
I'm excited too. Look forward to our chat here.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I'm, here in Arkansas, and I talk a lot about state legislatures, and I know you have a long history of fighting for voting rights and for affordability, first in the state legislature in Ohio and now in Congress. So I'm really grateful to see a few minutes of your time to talk about why those two issues are actually more connected than people generally think they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for folks at home, who are out there right now just trying to afford groceries and rent with all of the rising costs, why should they see voting access as a kitchen table issue right now?
Well, first of all, thank you again for having me, because I love to talk about the work that we do and helping people connect all the dots. And so when I talk about this, I remind people that any elected official, we make decisions on so many aspects of people's lives and some things that they don't even know about. So you think about the way that your pajamas are made and the kinds of fabrics. Of course, we all know whether you're speeding, you think about the water valves and the regulations in your home. All of these things are decided by an elected official somewhere. And I ask people, do you want to be able to choose that person that maybe they have the same values that you have, that we don't want children's pajamas to catch on fire and they'd rather protect them rather than the industry? Do you want to make sure that there's someone who's concerned about your safety and your family having a good place? Or you want someone who's all about corporate interests? And so we get to decide who we want. And so that's why voting is so important. And even if you think that it has nothing to do with you or you don't understand it, I just want to dispel that myth. People understand. We get it. We know what's bothering us, and we know how to find the right people.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of folks right now are feeling like they're trying to do everything right? They're working hard. They're, some people have been getting some raises, like things, everybody's trying to do the right thing. And the math, still isn't math, right? At the end of the month, there's not enough money to go around. And so from where you sit in Congress, what do you see is actually driving that pressure that families are feeling right now?
There are so many pressure points. It's not just one thing. It's a perfect storm. So, right now we're dealing with the tariffs from the Trump administration, which is raising the cost of goods that are imported into the country. And remember, Trump said that the other countries would pay for it, but that's not the case. We are paying for that tax. The tariff is a tax and we are paying for it. And so that's problematic. The inflation rate, while it's getting better, it's still not to the point where folks can actually have a little money left over to splurge on themselves or buy an extra toy for their kids. And so that's really problematic. Housing is the largest part of people's budgets, and it is so expensive. There is not enough supply, which means the cost is going up, and it's very challenging. And then even just this morning, I was listening to and seeing a bunch of people on social media talk about go fill up your gas tanks because the gas prices went up 30 cents overnight. That's not coming back down for a while. So people are going to continue to struggle. And it's important to me and many of the New Dem Coalition members that I work with to work on how we can address lowering costs so people can live better lives and not be so concerned and have a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, I know you've been doing a lot of work around affordability and especially around housing. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, about the kind of work that you're doing and what you think can make the biggest impact in people's lives right now when it comes to public policy on those issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing we see right now with housing is a lack of supply. The demand is there, the supply is not. And so if you remember your economics class, that drives prices up, but that doesn't deal with the real life short-term issues, which is what we're trying to make sure all the other costs of living are taken care of, and that people have wages that are self-sustaining so that they don't have to struggle. So we're dealing with the supply, we're cutting the red tape, we're trying to build more, we're creating more partnerships to get the private sector involved in this so that we can have a supply that meets the demand and then the cost can start to settle. But in the meantime, we're just trying to get people home buyers assistance, rent assistance, keeping them in their homes as long as they can, and allowing people to live their American dream. I mean, having a home is a part of the American dream, and so many people feel like it is far away or that they will never attain it. And we really want to reverse that trend and make people feel very proud of their communities.
That's incredible work, and thank you so much for doing that, and for leading that effort, or joining that effort, partially leading it. I'm sorry. So I think that I want to shift gears just a little bit because we just saw a big turnover in leadership yesterday, right? With Kristi Noem being ousted. Do you have any parting words for her?
I mean, we've seen, I can understand and work with people from the other side of the aisle, and I can appreciate us having different ideological values, but she just really did not do a good job. I mean, you have 2 dead Americans, you have folks in these detention centers who are getting sick and dying left and right. You're detaining American citizens, deporting American citizens. This is not someone who's doing their job well. And, we talked about this, and I had a town hall and I was talking to my community. I said, and I don't know how she's going to leave this job, whether she's fired or she's resigned or escalates to something else, but she cannot remain here. She has lost the trust of the American people. Clearly, she lost the trust of Donald Trump, which is a pretty low bar. And so now she's gone. So my words to her, bye, girl.
That I think is the perfect parting words. And I hope that folks can see how hard you're working to stay focused on the issues that really matter to people right now. Like, I know this is an issue that matters. I think my last question is probably for folks who are out there right now who've been, maybe protesting, maybe getting involved for the first time because of all of the issues that are happening in our country. What's your advice to them on where they can plug in and make the most impact right now?
They can make the most impact wherever they can make the most impact. And I know that sounds a little hokey, but if you can make phone calls, make phone calls. If you can show up at a protest, do a protest. If you can write your elected officials, do that. There is no right or wrong way to get involved in your government, as long as you're doing it legally, of course. But if it's something that you can do and you can continue to do it over and over and sustain it, that is the most important thing. And so I would just tell folks who are discouraged with what they're seeing, Kristi Noem got fired. She didn't get fired because of anything but the collective effort of the American people, constantly saying, this is unacceptable. We don't want to see this. We are better than this as a country. And so that is a win. So take that win, be excited about it, and then live to fight another day, because we're going to just keep battling these issues, especially because we want folks to live comfortably. We want them to have money. We want them to have a little extra left over to take a vacation if they want to. And so that's what we're concerned about. So we're going to get back to these basic issues as well. We're going to keep talking about them and make sure that folks know that there's a group of people in Congress who are truly caring and concerned about your family. And we're going to keep working towards it. But it is a group project. Democracy is a group project, so everybody has to be a part of it.
Great job on that. I love that interview.
She's incredible. I really enjoy getting to speak with her. And, just love to see that folks are still out there in our nasty, messy politics, like doing good work for regular people sometimes.
Absolutely. I want to talk about a little bit, if you don't mind, about our comment about the housing crisis, because I thought she made some really valid points there. And I love the fact that she talked about it from a supply perspective, because we don't always think about that. But the one thing I was kind of curious that I wish we had if we get a chance to talk to her again, I'd love to know about the lack of supply because of the big guys, the Blackstones, those folks coming in and buying up entire neighborhoods, and how that's ended up contributing. I saw that in Florida when I lived in Florida, right? These big corporations coming in, buying up whole neighborhoods, turning them into Airbnbs where they could, make a ton of money, buying up condo buildings and then turning it into apartments that they could, charge huge rents on. I kind of think that's part of the issue too. Did she touch on that at all with you, or do you have any thoughts on that?
We didn't talk about that specifically too much, but yeah, it is an issue. And you look at Northwest Arkansas, where they are growing so fast, and there is not enough housing. I mean, people are really struggling, and most of the new housing that comes in is for students.
I think you're absolutely right. And, it kind of all ties together, right? Gas prices, housing prices, all of that. It's like the billionaires and the trillionaires, whatever the biggest numbers you can imagine, are playing a game. They're playing Monopoly, right? Only we're the ones that are rolling the dice, right? We're the ones that are like paying the consequences of it. And it's kind of the same issue. Why would you go in and not only do you buy up these properties, like you were saying, and raise the rents way up, but then you pass laws that disallow or that keep the cities from making rules to protect renters, right? I mean, Arkansas is a great example. Worst state in the country, no renter rights at all. And you have the same thing with the oil situation, right? We're paying the price for increased oil, but somebody is getting that $110 a barrel, right? Or that $115 a barrel. Those folks aren't suffering as they're driving around in their Escalades, and we're driving around in our 2001 Priuses. It's like,
those hoes are in a Cybertruck. You just know it.
That's true.
But no, that's for real. And the message we're hearing from a lot of folks on the right is that this is going to be a short-term pain for a long-term gain, right? Like we just have to hold out for this short-term attack on Iran, and then we'll have long-term gains. And I'm like, what gains for regular people, right? Because yeah, we'll feel that short-term pain for sure. We'll feel it in our grocery bills and in our utilities and in our housing and in our putting gas in our car. Like we'll feel it every day. But then the long-term returns are really just going back to the regular inaffordability that we were already living under. There's no gains for regular people in that. The gains are only for the top.
What, you don't believe in trickle-down economics?
Bullshit runs downhill, my friend.
It's so funny. Do you remember about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, when the president of Kellogg's came on and he was talking about how if people were having a hard time affording food, if food prices had risen and they were having a hard time, it was like, let them eat cereal. Do you remember that? Right? And there was a whole campaign around boycotting Kellogg's as a result. I just saw some data recently that said that it could be, coincidence, but from that period on, there was a 2% loss in cereal revenues for Kellogg's. Power to the people.
One good thing happened. There's some hope core here. We got to say bye to Kristi Noem.
That's true.
As Representative Sykes said, girl, bye. But that was really another like people power, the way people kept pushing back, kept calling out the just complete hypocrisy, the bad decision making, all of it, and the way it was impacting Americans. We know that Trump is susceptible to public pressure on things like that, especially around popularity. And so, yeah, girl, bye.
Yeah, well, now we have to start working on Hegseth, because if the rumors are true that he is really telling people that what's happening in Iran is a holy war and that it's our role in trying to bring around the end times, like, come on, that's like that separation of church and state at all, is it?
Right? Psycho. Yeah, it's really just mind-blowing. But honestly, I'm just hoping that Pete Hegseth will do enough coke to take himself out. I mean, don't rain on his parade. He's having a good time with it. So, maybe we all benefit.
Well, I'm kind of wishing the rapture would come. It would take all the crazies and we could just start over down here.
Sounds like a fantastic time. Sign me up. All right, Gail, let's finish up our drinks. Let's talk about the grift of the week, because I have ended up on the side of social media where everyone is monitoring the Kouri Richins trial. Have you kept up with this?
I haven't. Wait a minute. Is she the woman who is accused of killing her husband and then writing a children's book or something?
That part. She's in the middle of her trial. It is juicy. It's like a soap opera. Like they've got her boyfriend. They've got her former best friend who she stole her life savings, allegedly, of course. Allegedly poisoned her husband with fentanyl. I am sad. I can't get enough of it. I'm watching all of it. And she has a face like me without Botox. Okay, when I went to get Botox, they had me squinch up your face and do this. And they were like, oh, you have a really mobile face. So does she. Okay. And as they're talking and things are happening in the trial, she has no control of her face. It is something to watch. And honestly, I can't, like, I don't feel for her because of some of the things it seems like she did. But if I was going to feel for her, it would be because I know what it's like when your face just says whatever it wants.
So she's not really hiding her expressions from the jury then. Is that the
No.
No. She could be in trouble. She could be in trouble. But yeah, I mean, reality, right? We can't even script the things that are happening right now. And just watching the world around us is so much more entertaining, right? Than television or anything you could make up.
Right. What is your grift of the week?
My grift of the week, we'll talk about not being able to make it up. Wait, maybe I could do it like this for you. Oh. Okay, so it could be graft, but it has to do with Erika Kirk. And it has to do with Erika Kirk and our beloved leader here in Arkansas, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. They are having a press conference tomorrow, and they're going to be talking about, well, we don't know what for sure, but all indications are that Arkansas is the next state to get rid of indoctrination and woke liberal policies by replacing it with high school programs sponsored by Turning Point. Yeah, here in Arkansas, they're going to bring Turning Point USA to every high school and college campus. To me, using our dollars to fund this program, that's a grift.
That's the part I'm curious about is this going to be taxpayer funded? Or is it going to be like, I think, Texas, where the governor paid it out of campaign funds? Or how is this going to play out? Because I don't see this going over well with Arkansans, honestly. But my other question is, do you think they will wear matching sequin pantsuits?
I think that's very possible. Very possible. Although, last night I was walking my dog and I walked by the governor's mansion, and the governor and a bunch of her crew were out in front of the mansion filming, and they were like just walking back and forth in front of the mansion. So maybe that day she was wearing a white shirt with the collar up, kind of very
Politico, very, yeah.
Exactly. So we'll see. We'll see what they're wearing and what they're doing. But the good news is, from my point of view, there's already a counter protest planned. Now, this is where a protest makes sense, right? Because you've got students who have been involved in the educational reform movement for a number of years, right? Going back, well, a long time here in Arkansas, especially in Little Rock, but more specifically since the LEARNS Act was passed, right? And they're going to be protesting at the time that the press conference is happening. That's a good time to protest. And that's part of the strategy.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. By the time this comes out, her announcement will be made. So we'll be back next week with updates on that, or you can catch us online on our social medias, where I'm sure we will both have commentary coming out on the situation. I think that a win for me would be seeing if Sarah gets her into one of those ugly ass, like floral Little House on the Prairie dresses. Maybe she can change up the whole vibe, because her stylist does work.
That could be. With the boots or without.
God. You know what? I'm okay with the boots if she doesn't wear the Jimmy Choos and the Hermes belt with it, because those make me want to peel my face off, because I know how much they cost, and that's more than most people have to pay for their housing.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. You were saying earlier about like it depended on who pays for this Turning Point USA thing. I personally feel that my tax dollars have been paying the governor's salary, and the fact she spent any time on this at all is enough to make me incensed. And yeah, you're right.
Sure.
Add the belt to it. It's way too much.
Well, and of course, it'll have to be behind the podium, the $20,000 podium. We have to have that on set.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, it's been fun, Gail. Always love talking to you. What are we going to be doing this week when we leave here? What you got going on? I've got 11,000 Zoom meetings.
Really? Aren't you?
I can't wait.
Well, I don't have that kind of a week. I'm kind of taking it a little bit chill, regrouping, getting ready to try to help save direct democracy as much as we can, and getting ready for the possible spring storms. I sat out here this morning drinking my coffee, looking out the window, watching them climb the trees to trim them down. So I'm hoping it's going to be a smooth, easy week for me.
It sounds like you are doing the Lord's work and the weather may or may not cooperate. And I appreciate you for it, my friend.
All right. Well, have a great week and I'll see you same time.
Yep. See you next week.